You are now listening to the Art of Winning show with your host and co-host, Eddie Truck Gordon and Miyoko Taylor, two best-selling authors. Eddie Truck Gordon is New York Emmy award-winning fighter, UFC Ultimate Fighter champion. Miyoko Taylor is a celebrity personal development coach and thought leader. Both have mastered the art of winning. It's never too late to tap into your amazing, and remember, success has no age limit.
Welcome to another episode of the Art of Winning show. We are super excited today. It's me, Eddie Truck Gordon, with my amazing co-host, Mr. Amazing himself, Miyoko Taylor. What's going on today, Yoko?
Man, excited, man. Blessed to wake up this morning and enjoy this, so far, a very rainy day.
It's all right, though. Without rain, we wouldn't enjoy sunshine. So
there you go.
There you go, man. Well, without no further ado, I'm not even going to introduce this guest. I'm allow him to introduce himself because I am fired up. I hate following and knowing about guests, but I could not know about our guest today because I follow him on Instagram. Some of his stuff is so authentic, so raw.
Amazing.
And his stuff hits home with me on so many different levels. You're going to find out exactly why. So without further ado, I want to introduce Cody Jefferson, our guest today. Cody, the floor is yours. Do your introduction so I don't ruin it for the listeners.
Oh, listen, man. First and foremost, it is an honor to be with you guys and to share this conversation with you in whatever direction that takes. Honored to serve your audience and to add value in any way that I can in this conversation. So my name is Cody Jefferson. More than anything, man, I'm a guy who believes relentlessly in the potential of other people. And so that's carried me through the past 14 years of doing what I do. And, we can talk about a lot of things. I own a few businesses. I do a few different things here and there. But more than anything, I'm a man. I'm a soon-to-be husband. I'm a father. And those are the things that I love to be defined by. So, yeah, man, it's an honor to be here.
Pleasure is all ours, man. So I'm going to steal this from Truck right away because I actually follow you on Instagram also. And what really sets you apart from a lot of other people is I can really tell you have a genuine love and appreciation for life, period. I mean, you talk about relationships, you talk about personal development and other aspects, so many different areas. So I really want to ask a question in regards to, the relationship portion. Like, were you always this, wise when it comes to the posts that you do on relationships and human connection and interaction and those particular things? And is that something you do professionally?
Yeah, so great. That's a great question. So listen, I was raised by a different culture. So I was raised by my grandparents, which leads to a very, very different dynamic in terms of relational development, right? So I saw them married my entire life. Now, I grew up with parents who were divorced, but being raised by my grandfather primarily, and my grandmother, but my grandfather instilling a lot of that sage wisdom into me.
Right.
And, I was in occupational ministry. I was a pastor for 12 years before stepping fully into coaching and development for men. And so that's primarily what I do is I help men become better men, better leaders, better fathers, better husbands, better community leaders, better business owners, better employees. And so while the relational aspect has always been at the forefront of what I do because I love people and I've been in the people business for 14 years, it wasn't always objective to me, right? So I'm really good at taking ideas. I'm really good at taking stories and making object lessons out of them. That's the pastoral side. That's the empathetic side. Now, where it got twisted for me, like I went through a divorce 3 years ago, where it got twisted for me was I was so wrapped up in helping other people manage their own pain and helping other people move forward in their own lives that I was stuck behind this mask of service, and this mask of my usefulness and my value is tied to how I can help others, right? So this like weird affirmation addiction, which so many men can relate to, feeling like I've got to be all things to all people, right? I've got to do my job well. And there was a lot of confusion for me because my job is God. And so is my job number one? Is my family number one? Where do I fall in the balance of this? Mm-hmm. So it was in walking through that and walking through, in the meantime of that, a lot of familial loss and family and friends. I lost 9 people over the course of a year while walking through a divorce. That I stepped out of public ministry, not out of any moral failing or anything else. It was more, I was ready to take ownership for my own life and help others really take ownership for their lives as well. And so while the relational side has always been there, and that's always been modeled to me, it was really in walking through my own loss that, you can't lead anyone to self-actualization. You can't lead anyone to having their eyes open. It has to happen for themselves. And that happened for me, right? I was always a very charismatic guy. Words come pretty easy to me. I'm pretty good on stage, like when you can just rely on talent alone, it really prevents you from having to walk through some of the pain because you're hired on talent. You're hired on your ability to connect with people. And then it's when that pain hits and that pain sets in that you really now have to confront all the things you've been telling people all these years and walk through set. And so now you kind of feel that from me. It's not just me telling you stories. It's me saying, hey, man, I've walked through this too. I've actually been to hell and back as well. So now we can actually have the conversation versus me giving you a bunch of trite, religious answers.
Okay.
Sorry, Yoko. That's why I love you, because honestly, man, I relate to you on so many different levels. Going through a divorce, being depressed, being fat, being overweight, being tattooed, going to like something you said resonated with me when you went to like a parent-teacher function or something, and all these conservative parents are looking at you like you had 15 heads because you had artwork on your body. And I can relate to that because when I'm being a professional athlete, being a fighter, people have so many different perceptions of you. Then they see a tattoo, then they're like, oh man. And then they're like, hold on, wait a second. He's at a parent teacher conference, or he's at, a parent field day. And how do you what can you tell our listeners? How do you combat that without coming off, too confrontational? How do you deal with that? Because I think I know this answer, but I think our listeners need to hear this from you.
Yeah. So for those of you who can't, you're not seeing me on a screen or anything, I am covered in tattoos. So I've got 2 full sleeves. My knuckles are tattooed, my chest, my stomach, my neck, my legs, which people don't really see unless I'm in shorts. I love good tattoos. I love artwork. I was really into art all growing up and in school. I grew up, before I went to live with my grandparents, I grew up in a pretty volatile home. And we can dissect all of that and we can compare battle scars and all that, but it really is just semantics. I had a pretty rough upbringing for a while. And the hands that were always the safest to me, because I grew up in a biker community, in a biker culture, were the hands that were covered in tattoos. And so for me, this wasn't a sign of rebellion ever. It was a sign of artwork and it was a sign of safety, right? And so for me, really being able to communicate and break down stereotypes, because I really am a die-hard extrovert. I am a guy who loves to start conversations, loves to be in the middle of whatever you're walking through. I love to see you staring at me looking a little weird and just come up and start a conversation with you. So because I approach, right? And I think when people see me, it breaks down a lot of stereotypes. That's what I love. I love that kind of a conversation. I don't find a lot of confrontation towards me. I do have a big beard. I do work out a lot. I typically have a knife on my side and a gun on my back. I am my grandfather's grandchild. I am my father's son. We are all the same men. But when we just start a conversation, you'll find out really, really quickly, oh, wow, this guy is nothing. He doesn't talk like how he looks. And that's always really fun for me. So I love breaking down stereotypes like that and just being present, right? So just being present regardless of any stares or looks or anything else. And really it's more people's curiosity than anything. And if we're being really honest, I'm not sure if some of those, soccer moms aren't just a little like, look at that guy. So
I think that's more what it is, because I'm biased too. And see, I love this about you. You're authentic. You're real. That's why I was so excited about this show, because I don't like those cookie cutter shows where everything is scripted and everything goes along a certain path. I like to just be real. I want people to feel. I want our listeners to say, "Hey, I'm sitting on the couch. I'm listening to Cody speak. I'm related to Cody. I'm learning more about Cody," and that's And that's what it's all about. Now, I think that you are, like, what you're doing is revolutionary because I feel like a lot of times you don't see men tackle the emotional aspects of other men.
That's exactly where I was going. And I was waiting for you to segue right into that, Truck, because with, the recent suicides and everything that's going on, I think a lot of men, and I'm actually working on a project in regards to this, because a lot of men, we're under this traditional stereotype that's been passed down from generation to generation that we can't feel a certain emotion. And if we feel a certain emotion, it's supposed to cause shame, and we're not supposed to feel it, and we're supposed to sweep it under the rug. And most people don't know that, a suicide is very, very high among men. And I think that's one of the culprits and one of the reasons. So my question is, and you can tell this is already going to be a men's episode. My question is for the men, what can they do, or what can we do as successful men to really make them aware that it's okay to feel, because these emotions exist for a reason. We are supposed to feel them. So what would you suggest that we can actually do to kind of really break this mold and really veer away from this men cannot feel frustrated or feel sad or feel vulnerable or these particular things? So how do we go about that?
So that's a really, really great and such a multifaceted question that, to really dissect this, we would need a multi-part series.
Yes.
Here's what we know. We know that a lot of men have never really been taught how to manage or confront their feelings.
Yes.
Right? It's not something that my grandfather didn't really teach it to me. My dad didn't really teach it to me. It was really in my own evolution and my own processing and being a more empathetic guy, right? So I think one of the things that people will say all the time that makes me a little different is and being a primarily men's development coach, is that, but you're not like the hard ass who just says man up and, right, just be stoic all the time. And that doesn't do any good for the man himself. When we can't confront what it is that we feel and process it for what it is, right? Which is, it's an emotion, right? It's a feeling based on a thought or some sort of action that's happened in our past, in our present, or something that's done to us or something we're doing. If you want to change the outcomes in your life, like, there's a lot of events we cannot control, right? But we can control our responses. And if we want different outcomes in life, we have to understand why we make the continued responses we do. Some people will call these habits. Some people will call these addictions, right? Some hiding, blaming, shifting blame. It's not until we can understand the emotion behind our responses that we're able to have different outcomes in our lives. And so for so many men, we become so wrapped up in the cyclical approach to habit-based responses to events that we get the same outcome every single time, and it just keeps mounting and building, right? And what do we do to numb that? We find ourselves in addiction. We find ourselves in pornography addiction. We find ourselves in affairs. We find ourselves in, at the bottom of a bottle every single night. And why is this? It's because we don't know how to process why we are like taking the action that we're taking towards the events in our lives. And so when we can sit down and say, hey, it's all right that you feel. That's a basic normal function of being a human being, is that we feel, and understanding that it's not wrong to feel, right? It's not wrong to feel pain. I think pain is one of the greatest gifts that we're given in this life. It reminds you that you're alive. It is the greatest single emotion of transformation that we're given. It's a gift.
I see, Cody, you get me fired up, man, because I preach this. I'm salivating. I'm like, pain, people don't understand pain. Like, and I feel like it's the biggest misconception. People oftentimes run away from pain instead of embracing it. Like, once you embrace it, you got to understand that on the other side of pain, there's growth and there's bliss. And I feel like that's the biggest misconception with pain, as well as, fear, as well as failure. I feel like, it's the way you perceive it, the way you look at it. And I love that about you, man. You are hitting on so many different topics. Like you said, this could be like a 15-part series because, being a professional athlete, being being, in the fight game, people don't understand that we're our worst enemy at times because it's all up here. It's all a mindset. It's all in the mind. But more importantly, when we need help, when we're struggling, we almost feel like we're weak, we're vulnerable if we go out there, we look for it. We're weak or vulnerable if we show emotion. But then when you show emotion, when you're competing, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And a lot of people, a lot of men can't differentiate the two. And like you said, when you're dealing with your clients and it kind of freaks them out that you're not like, just man up, go through it. And you actually allow them to express themselves. I know for a fact that's what makes you different. That's why you are so successful, because you can break down different barriers. And before I even knew you from a slice of bread, and I just stumbled upon your Instagram, it was like an instant connection where I never go to start randomly liking and almost borderline stalking men that are like, maybe a woman that looks hot, but not a guy that's tattooed and stuff. And I literally going through your feed and just liking and almost like, man, this dude, like, he has that it factor, and it's different. It's usually yoga pants and fitness models. I'm doing that too. But you break down barriers, man. And I feel like it's because you generally have an attachment. You generally have an emotional connection with all walks of life. And I think that's very, very powerful. Was there somebody, this leads up to the question, was there somebody that you looked at as like a mentor, besides like your grandparents? Like it's gotta be. Is there someone that kind of let that click and kind of that you looked up to and kind of said, hey, I want to go this route?
So I would say that first and foremost, and I just made a post about him this morning because yesterday was the 5-year anniversary of his passing. My grandfather, first and foremost, was, and my dad, were the driving forces of influence in my life. Now, we could talk a lot about the different men of influence in my life over the course of, being in pastoral leadership and some of the amazing people that have come in and out of my life. Different men in coaching and male development that have been instrumental. My first pastor, his name is Eastman Curtis. He was pastor here in town. And in terms of me working for the church, was the first person who really looked at me, a kid who I wasn't involved in the church at the time. Like I went because I was managing a garage at the time, and the owner of the garage tricked me into going, right? And so I went, and for the first time, I saw somebody from a stage who was communicating that their life was like just messy as shit, and that they still had purpose to it. And for me, I had never heard that before. And immediately he and I connected, and he gave me a platform I didn't really deserve or wasn't really ready for. But super grateful for that, because I wouldn't be who I am without that opportunity, right? And I could name a dozen men in my life who have been that key and that instrumental to me. Today, there are a handful of men that I lean on for support and for coaching and for community. I'll name a few of them because I think it's important, because if you follow me, you should be following these guys. So one is a guy named Brandon Duncan. I think his Instagram it's either Brandon James Duncan or B James Duncan, something of that nature. We're actually business partners now. But he is like a literal brother to me, and is instrumental in my journey of becoming who I say I'm going to be. High accountability, friendship, and relationship. Keith Yackey is my current coach, and is a man who was a pastor, who understands me, who understands coming out of ministry and into a new field. And I couldn't be more thankful for his insight in my life. A guy named Roger Bruin, who you won't find on Instagram. He's not an influencer or anything else like that. He's a man here in town who is one of the best men I've ever known in my life. Successful multipreneur, amazing father and husband, just devoted to himself and his family and to his community, and makes me a better man every single time we interact. We had lunch last week, and I'll always jump at the drop of a hat to have lunch with him. Outside of that, there have been other guys who've been instrumental to me. Like, when I was walking through my divorce, a guy named Ryan Mickler, who has a group called Order of Man and a podcast called Order of Man, has been a great friend and support to me. There are so many along the journey that have been so key to me being who I am. As I was walking through a very obviously painful situation within the church, a friend of mine named Jonathan Martin, who's a pretty well-known author and pastor, just one of my dearest friends, absolutely instrumental in, again, pushing into the emotional side of healing, and not this conversation of, well, just man up, you just got to take your lumps and go. No, like, let's really press into the deeper conversation. So as a result of all of that and all of these men who are in my life, there's this conversation that I'm always pushing men toward. And I think this would be a good segue to jump into that. As we talk about emotional development and emotional maturity, we have to understand a few different things. One, what's real and what's perceived, right? We spend a lot of time worrying about scenarios that don't exist, and we'll manifest them because we worry about them so much. So what's real and what's perceived? What's yours to own and what's not yours to own? Right? We'll try to we're pretty good at taking credit for shit that we didn't do. But on the backside of that, we're really good at taking credit for areas in which aren't like our areas to develop. They might be someone else's, but we won't own them because we feel like we're fixers, and it's our responsibility to fix everything and all people. And so owning what's ours to own, letting go of what's not ours to own, understanding that our past is nothing more than our perception of events that have happened. Your past is completely different than my past. Whose is real? Whose is real? Right? So your past only has power over you because you allow it to. If you'll allow it to just be what it's intended for, which is a vehicle for learning and becoming the man that you're called to be, well, now we have a completely different conversation about emotional maturity and how we process events that have happened to us. We no longer have to be a victim or feel victim to things that have happened to us, or ways in which we've experienced loss or pain or tragedy, right? We use all of this as a catalyst for what I say, converting pain into power. Right? And power isn't how, I say this to Eddie, like, it's not how hard you can hit. For me, it's not how much I can deadlift or how, fast I can run. It really is how we take this conversation of all of our experiences and move it forward into becoming like the highest potential of ourselves, which never, if we understand potential and like a growth mindset, we never, ever reach that. We're always evolving. There is no ceiling with a growth mindset. There's no, we could say, well, it's because, listen, I grew up in a single bedroom trailer growing up. I grew up, lower middle class, right? You grew up black, I don't know where you grew up, but we can have all these different things. I'm covered in tattoos. I'm divorced. I've got all of these different things playing against me. So we have all these ceilings, right? Like, I'm not good at this. They told me I couldn't do this. They told me I couldn't do that. So now I have this ceiling of potential. Actually, there's no test that can quantify that with the right mindset, the right tools, the right people in your life at the right time in the right environment. There's no test that can quantify what your potential actually is.
Yes.
I love it, man. I love everything you're saying. It resonates. I'm salivating over here because, like you said, like, from pain to power, it's so powerful. I always feel like people are so caught up in their past that they're always, convicting an innocent person. If we knew better at that time, we'll do better. And I feel like that's what limits so many men, so many women, so many kids, because they're trapped in the past. They're trapped in what happened. And it's like, you have to get over it. You have to learn from it to become who you are. You needed that to happen in your past. Every obstacle I ever dealt with in my past, I needed. I wouldn't be where I was. If I sit down and draw like a little timeline, a little map of what happened and what happened after that, what happened after that, it all leads up to what I'm doing now. And that's the beauty of it.
But let's talk about this. Why do people stay in abusive relationships? Why do people stay addicted, right? Why do people stay stuck in the past? It's familiar. It may not be healthy.
It's comfortable.
It's comfortable. Like, it may not be healthy. It definitely doesn't lead you to the path of becoming the highest version of yourself. But damn, at least I can predict it.
Right.
Yes, that's so spot on. Oof.
Right?
I love it, man. I love it.
Because what happens if I actually move forward, and what if I fail? I'd rather fail moving forward than stay stuck in my past, not pushing towards who I'm called to be. That's a life I don't want to live. Right? But that's the reality for so many people.
So many.
We stay stuck. or we just stay comfortable in the life that we think is designed for us, right? Like I kind of akin it to the Matrix. Like we just buy in to the idea that everything should be safe, that there's a one size fits all for this life, that we're gonna do, we're just gonna live a comfortable life. We're gonna do these things. We're gonna get married by this age. We're gonna have kids by this age. We're gonna do these things, fit in this box because that's what our parents told us to do and that's what our parents did. And so that's what we have to do.
I think sometimes too, it's that some people feel that's what they deserve. And sometimes their situation is really a situation where it's causing a lot of pain, and and I know, like, you need to get out of it. They know they need to get out of it. The awareness is there, but they feel, or somebody has told them, or they have this self-limiting belief that this is exactly what they deserve.
Guilt is a real thing that
absolutely
men and women struggle with, but men really struggle with guilt on a lot of multifaceted levels. Like we have to apologize for being men, right? Like you can't be a strong masculine guy, well, because that's what leads to male domination in the workplace. That's what leads to all these different conversations of toxic masculinity. So we have to apologize for that. So we can't be overly masculine, but we can't be a pushover. And so we've got to apologize for both. And there's guilt for being one or the other, right? Like I did these things in my past, and my spiritual upbringing says that, like, this is what I deserve, right? Like this is God's retribution. This is karma. This is, like, there are all these different ways in which we create all of these scenarios that says, like, no, like I am a piece of shit and this is what I deserve, right? Couldn't be farther from the truth. Beliefs are nothing more than this. A belief is nothing more than a thought that you hold captive, right? We think and we feel things. And over a period of time, that becomes a core belief. Is it true? It's true to you. It doesn't mean it's relatively true, right? If you're in an abusive relationship and you're told over and over and over and over that you're worthless and you're not worth loving, you're not worth anything, a parent tells you that growing up repeatedly, it doesn't matter if it's true or not, you believe it to be true, right? I coach men who have come out of incredibly toxic spiritual upbringings, right? And they believe that they deserve all of the bad things that have happened to them in their life because of this, like, intensely manipulated moral and spiritual compass. And I'm here to say, listen, a belief is just that. It's just a thought that you hold captive, right? Like we've allowed seeds to be planted in our subconscious and we allow those to grow. And we have thousands of thoughts every single day. It's funny what we decide to hang a belief system on as if it's real. So what I help men do, and what I always encourage is, hey, I want you to write down everything that you believe. Like, let's get really practical. Write down everything you believe about yourself, right? Everything you believe about spirituality, right? Everything you believe about relationships, good, bad, and different, right? There's no good or bad. There's just useful or not useful. Right? So write down everything that you actually believe. Don't give me some bullshit answer that you think I want to hear. Give me the truth. And then we're going to take a look at this belief system. Does it serve you? Is it serving you? Is this pushing you to your highest self? Or is this pushing you to stay small, stay scared, stay guilty? Because if that's the case, we need to work on removing that belief because it no longer serves you and it has no space. We've got to uproot, overthrow, and destroy that, to speak biblically, so that we can plant new seeds of possibility, right? That's how we move forward.
Dang, Cody, you dropped that fireball right now. Like, I think you almost stole my segue into the challenge. But before we even go into the challenge, that was off the charts. You need to tell all of our listeners all around the world where they can find you. Like, this is your platform. I'm going to give you this platform right now to tell them where they can connect with you, because, like, they need to find you. Because I'm telling you now, I grew from looking at your Instagram, looking at your social media, because it's always relevant and you don't sugarcoat it. That's what I love the most. You don't hide from controversy. You don't tiptoe. You kick down the door and you address what needs to be addressed, whether it's from the school shootings, whether it's from suicide. You answer all the questions that need to be raised, and I love that. So please tell our listeners where exactly they can find you before Miyoko drops the little bomb on you that I think you're gonna destroy. So tell all our listeners where they can find and connect with you, because they need to.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram at Cody_Jefferson. You can find me on Facebook at Cody Jefferson or Embrace the Lion. That's the business page on Facebook. There's also embracethelion.org. And you can email me at Cody@embracethelion.org.
I've got nothing, Chuck.
Drop some bombs on me.
I've got nothing. I don't, being as though Cody is a coach himself, I mean, this is awesome. So to actually be able to sit back and interview and listen to your thought processes on relationships, on men, on, you know, pain and what it really is, what it isn't. I think we covered a lot of many different things. So Chuck, you can lead him right into the challenge. I already know he's going to smash this. So
I know. I'm excited because every episode, right before we wrap up, we always give our guests the floor to take it and run with it. But we always want to leave our guests with something practical that they could literally do today. Because I don't like when people like to motivate people, get them all fired up, pumped up, and then after a day or a week or hour or whatever it is, then it dissolves and then they have nothing left. So we want you to offer all our listeners something physical, something practical that they can actually go and do today, right after this show's over, to help build themselves up and not tear themselves down. So the floor is yours to issue a challenge, whatever it is, and take it away. And anything you want to lead up to, anything you want to plug, then it's all yours. So the floor is yours, Cody. You're an extrovert, so here you go.
All right. Put me on the spot here.
Yeah.
So let's leave with this. Everything in life either serves us or it doesn't serve us. And when we look at our lives and we find that we are unfulfilled, that the money we thought would bring us happiness isn't, right? That we spend so much time focused on other people's version of success for our lives that we find ourselves isolated, we find ourselves alone, we find ourselves being seen but not being known. I want to offer you this proposition that you might consider. I want you to write down your habits. I want you to write down your day. I want you to look and survey everything that you do at every hour, every 30-minute mark, every 15-minute mark of the day. I want you to write it down for a week. And you're going to say to yourself, I mean, even like when I'm on social media, especially when you're on social media, I want you to journal when you wake up, what you do when you wake up. What are your habits? Because here's the deal. I really don't give a shit what you say you believe. You show me what you do, and I'll actually show you what you believe. You show me what you do, I'll show you your actual value system. So what I want you to do after you make this log is I want you to take a survey of it. I want you to look at it and say, where are the areas in my life that I could trim some fat? Listen, time doesn't need a manager. There's no time management. It's going to move forward whether you manage it or not. But there is prioritization. If you're not seeing the results that you want in your life, it is a direct result of the habits that you have formed. So listen, look where there's fat in your life, metaphorically and literally, and where can it be trimmed, right? What foods are not serving you? What belief systems are not serving you? What are you doing with your time that's not serving you? Where are you leaving your family on the back burner? Where are you leaving yourself on the back burner? Where are you leaving your dreams on the back burner? Who told you it wasn't possible, and where does that need to be removed in your life? So take a survey of those things once you've documented those habits. And then let's begin the conversation of replacing those habits with ones that actually move you forward. If you are a guy, you are welcome to join our free group. We talk about this all the time. It's facebook.com/groups/embrace the lion. We've got about 5,000 guys in there just committed to this conversation ongoing. Right? You can also connect with me on Instagram. I'd love to start a conversation. I don't got shit to sell you, but always interested in the conversation of helping men move forward. Okay? And women, I'm not trying to leave you out here. I'm not. You should do the exact same thing, right? So take a survey of what it is that you're doing with your day, with your week, and the things that are not serving you, they need to be cut out. You have been given a gift in this life. You've been given a gift in this day. Do not waste it. Do not spend it. Invest it.
I love it. I love it. Like that. I think I'm not even taking another second. I don't want to. That was fire. I love it, Cody. I'm super grateful for everything. Thank you for coming on the show. I am going to implement that because I love that saying, don't tell me, show me. Your actions are going to show me exactly what you believe in. And if they're not aligned with your actions, with your value system, then forget about it. You're just giving hype. I love it, man. Listeners, if you didn't get value from this show, then you are off your rocker. Make sure you go ahead and go follow Cody. We're super grateful for everybody tuning in today. And I'm blown away, Yoko. What do you got?
All I have to say is, everybody listening, this was an amazing episode. We always think about how can we top the next one, and we're just blessed with amazing guests. The one thing I'll leave all the listeners with is the question: what are you investing in your life every single day?
Yep.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you so much, Cody, for being here. This was truly a blessing. And thanks, Truck, as always. And that's all I have to say, guys.
It's an honor, guys. It's an honor.
Have a blessed day, guys.